"I can't have a child." Fat girl said in tears, but the mountain man made her pregnant. In one day, the blizzard descended on the Montana Territory with a fury that seemed personal, as if the winter itself had declared war on anything foolish enough to be caught outside. 21-year-old Eliza Winters stumbled through knee-deep snow, her substantial 350-pound frame fighting against wind that threatened to knock her down with every step. Her threadbare coat offered little protection against the brutal cold, and ice had formed in her dark hair and on her eyelashes. She was running away, running from the town of Silver Ridge where she'd lived her entire life, running from the doctor who had pronounced her barren after examining her for persistent abdominal pain, running from the townspeople who had whispered that her obesity had made her womb inhospitable to life, running from the shame of being deemed worthless in a society where a woman's value was measured by her ability to bear children. Better to die out here clean and quick than slowly in that town, Eliza muttered through chattering teeth, though she wasn't entirely sure she believed it. Freezing to death was proving to be neither clean nor quick, just cold, painful, and terrifying. She'd been walking for hours, though she'd lost track of time as the storm intensified. Her legs were numb, her fingers had stopped responding properly, and she could feel consciousness beginning to slip away. When she finally stumbled and fell face first into a snowdrift, she lacked the strength to get back up. "This is it, then," she thought with strange detachment. "At least no one will have to look at me anymore. No one will have to pretend to be kind while thinking I'm a waste of space." She closed her eyes and waited for the cold to take her. Instead, she felt strong hands lifting her, heard a deep voice cursing the storm, and then everything went black. Eliza woke to warmth, blessed, overwhelming warmth that made her entire body ache as frozen limbs began to thaw. She was lying in a large bed covered with thick furs and quilts, and a fire roared in a stone fireplace across the room. The cabin around her was substantial and well built, with log walls, a high ceiling with exposed beams, and windows shuttered against the storm that still raged outside. "You're awake. Good. Drink this." Eliza turned her head to see a man sitting in a chair beside the bed, holding a mug of something that steamed in the cold air. He was perhaps 35 years old and powerfully built, 6'4" with shoulders like granite outcroppings, arms thick with muscle, and a torso that showed the distinctive six-pack of defined abdominal muscles visible even through his flannel shirt. His face was weathered and handsome in a rough way, with dark hair, a close-trimmed beard, and eyes the color of storm clouds. "Who are you?" Eliza managed to croak. "Jedediah Thorne. Most people call me Jed. I found you about half a mile from here, half buried in a snowdrift. You're damn lucky I was checking my trap lines despite the storm, or you'd be dead by morning." He offered the mug. "It's broth. You need to get something warm in you." Eliza struggled to sit up, and Jed helped her with surprising gentleness for someone so large and intimidating. She sipped the broth and felt warmth spreading through her chest. "Why were you out in the blizzard?" Jed asked, his tone neutral but his eyes sharp, missing nothing. "I was running away," Eliza said quietly, "from Silver Ridge, from everything." "Must be some everything to make you choose freezing to death over staying," Jed observed. Eliza laughed bitterly. "The doctor said I'm barren, can't have children, in a town where a woman's only value is breeding sons for the mines and ranches. That makes me worthless. People had already treated me like garbage because I'm fat. This just confirmed what they already believed, that I'm a waste of space, a burden, completely without value. She looked at Jed directly. I was tired. Tired of the stares, tired of the whispers, tired of feeling like I'm taking up space that someone more deserving should have. So I walked into the storm. I didn't really want to die. I couldn't stay there anymore. Jed was quiet for a long moment. My wife died 3 years ago, he finally said. Rebecca. She was pregnant with our first child. Something went wrong during the birth. The midwife said the baby was positioned wrong. Rebecca hemorrhaged. I couldn't stop it, couldn't save her or the baby. They both died while I held her hand and felt completely powerless. His voice grew rough. Everyone in town said it was my fault, said I'd pushed her too hard, worked her too much, that her death was on my hands. Maybe they were right, but I couldn't stay there with people looking at me like I was a murderer. So I came up here, built this cabin, and haven't been back to civilization since. Why are you telling me this? Eliza asked. Because I know what it's like to run from shame that's eating you alive, Jed said. And I'm telling you that out here, none of that town's judgment matters. You're alive. You're strong enough to have walked miles through a blizzard, and you're brave enough to have tried to start over, even if you chose a foolish way to do it. That's worth something. That's worth a lot, actually. The storm trapped them in the cabin for 3 days. During that time, Eliza learned that Jed was nothing like the rough, dangerous recluse she might have expected. He was educated, had been a teacher before the war, and his cabin was filled with books. He was gentle with the injured animals he sometimes found and nursed back to health. He was patient as he taught Eliza the basics of his isolated life, and he treated her with the respect she'd never experienced. He never commented on her size, never made her feel ashamed of eating, never looked at her with the disgust or pity she'd seen in so many eyes back in Silver Ridge. On the third night, as they sat by the fire after dinner, Jed spoke quietly. The storm's breaking. By tomorrow, the trail back to Silver Ridge will be passable. I'll take you back if that's what you want. Or, he paused, searching for words. Or you could stay here, work for me, earn wages, have a safe place until you figure out what you want to do with your life. Why would you want me here? Eliza asked. I'm just some fat girl who tried to kill herself in a blizzard. You're a person who's been treated terribly by people who should have known better, Jed corrected, and you deserve a chance to discover who you are when you're not constantly defending yourself from cruelty. Stay, Eliza, at least until spring. She stayed. Over the following weeks, Eliza discovered a life she'd never imagined possible. Hard work, yes, managing Jed's cabin, helping with trapping and hunting, learning wilderness skills, but also purpose, respect, and gradually, happiness. Jed was a good companion, teaching her with patience and valuing her contributions genuinely. Their peaceful existence was shattered when 3 men from the Rocky Mountain Railroad Company arrived at the cabin on horseback, armed with legal documents and threats. Mr. Thorne, the lead agent said, the railroad is expanding through this territory. Your homestead sits on land we need for a depot. We're offering fair market value, $500. Not for sale, Jed said flatly. This is my home. I have a legal claim, properly filed. Ah, but there's a problem, the agent continued with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. Your homestead claim requires proof of improvement and residence by a family unit. The law specifically states that homestead claims in this territory must be occupied by a married couple or family. You're a widower living alone. That makes your claim vulnerable to challenge." "That's not—" Jed started. "Oh, but it is," the agent interrupted. "We've checked with the land office. Your claim can be contested, and we're contesting it. You have 30 days to provide proof of a family in residence, or this land reverts to federal control, which means we can buy it for pennies on the dollar." After they left, Jed paced the cabin like a caged animal. "They're using a technicality to steal my land, everything I've built here, everything I've worked for." "Then we give them what they want," Eliza said quietly. "Proof of a family." Jed stopped pacing and looked at her. "What are you saying?" "Marry me," Eliza said, standing to face him. "It would be a business arrangement, a marriage of convenience to protect your land. I have nowhere else to go anyway, and you've been kinder to me than anyone in my entire life. This way, we both get something we need." "Eliza, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." She met his eyes steadily. "Do you have a better solution?" He didn't. They married the following week in the nearest town, with a justice of the peace performing a quick ceremony and 2 witnesses pulled in from the street. When Jed slipped a simple gold band onto Eliza's finger and spoke the words, "I do," she felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that she had a secure future. Sadness that it was purely practical, that this good, kind man was marrying her out of necessity rather than desire. Back at the cabin, Jed gave Eliza his bed and took to sleeping in the loft, maintaining careful boundaries despite their married status. "This is a business arrangement," he said firmly. "I won't take advantage." But over the following weeks, something shifted between them. Conversations grew longer and more personal. They found themselves working side by side with an easy companionship that felt natural. Eliza caught Jed looking at her sometimes with an expression she couldn't quite read, but that made her heart race. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Eliza finally worked up the courage to speak. "Jed, can I ask you something about Rebecca, about what happened?" Jed tensed but nodded. "You said everyone blamed you for her death, that you pushed her too hard. But what did the midwife actually say?" "She said—" Jed's voice was rough. "She said the baby was breech, that there was nothing anyone could have done differently. But I was the one who got Rebecca pregnant, the one who brought her to this isolated place, the one who loved her and built her a home and tried to give her the life she wanted." Eliza interrupted gently. "Jed, births go wrong sometimes. Women die in childbirth, even with the best doctors and the best hospitals. You didn't kill Rebecca. You loved her. There's a difference." Jed's face crumpled, and Eliza found herself holding him while he finally grieved properly for the wife he'd lost, not as the guilty party, but as a husband who had loved and lost through no fault of his own. After that night, their relationship changed. Jed began sleeping in the main room again, closer to Eliza. They talked about their growing feelings, about the fact that their practical marriage was becoming something more. "I love you," Jed admitted one evening. "I didn't expect to, didn't plan for it, but I've fallen completely in love with you, Eliza. Your strength, your kindness, your intelligence, your laugh, everything about you." "I love you too," Eliza whispered. "But Jed, you need to understand I can't give you children. The doctor said—" "I don't care," Jed interrupted fiercely. I don't need children to have a family. I need you. You're enough, Eliza, more than enough. You're everything." They consummated their marriage that night, their love-making tender and passionate and healing for both of them. Eliza finally believed that Jed truly found her beautiful and desirable, while Jed felt the last of his guilt about Rebecca finally release its grip. 6 weeks later, Eliza collapsed while working in the garden. Jed carried her inside, terrified, and rode to the nearest town for the doctor. When the elderly physician examined Eliza, his expression was thoughtful. "Mrs. Thorne," he said, "when did you last have your monthly courses?" Eliza thought about it and realized with shock that she hadn't had them since before the blizzard. I don't know, maybe 2 months?" The doctor smiled. "That's because you're pregnant. About 8 weeks along, I'd estimate." "That's impossible," Eliza breathed. "The doctor in Silver Ridge said I was barren. He examined me and said—" "Then the doctor in Silver Ridge was an idiot," the physician said bluntly. "You're not barren, Mrs. Thorne. You're perfectly capable of carrying a child. In fact, you're doing so right now. You have a healthy pregnancy developing." After the doctor left, Eliza and Jed held each other and cried, tears of joy, relief, and wonder. The thing she'd been told was impossible, the thing she'd been shamed for lacking, had happened. She was carrying Jed's child. When the railroad agents returned demanding proof of a family, Eliza was visibly pregnant, her belly showing at 4 months. She stood beside Jed as he presented their marriage certificate and the doctor's letter confirming her pregnancy. "This is our family," Jed said firmly, "my wife and our child. We meet every legal requirement for this homestead claim. Now get off my land." But what truly shocked them both was what happened next. The townspeople of Silver Ridge, hearing about the railroad's attempted land grab, rode en masse to Jed's homestead. Men and women who had once whispered about Eliza, who had treated her as worthless, now stood up for her and Jed. "We won't let the railroad steal from our neighbors," the blacksmith said. "We were wrong about you, Mrs. Thorne, wrong to judge you, wrong to shame you, but we're making it right now." The railroad agents, faced with united community opposition and clear legal documentation, finally backed down and chose a different location for their depot. After everyone left, Eliza leaned into Jed's solid warmth. "They stood up for me. The same people who told me I was worthless actually stood up for me." "Because you proved them wrong," Jed said. "You survived when they expected you to break. You thrived when they expected you to fail. You became exactly who you were always meant to be, strong, capable, valuable, and loved." Their son was born in early spring, delivered by the same elderly doctor who had diagnosed Eliza's pregnancy. The birth was long and difficult, but this time there was no tragedy. Only the overwhelming joy of hearing their child's first cry, of seeing him placed on Eliza's chest, of becoming a family in the fullest sense. They named him Samuel, after Jed's grandfather. Years later, as they watched Samuel play in the yard with his younger siblings, Eliza had gone on to have 3 more healthy pregnancies. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here. "I walked into that blizzard expecting to die," she told Jed one evening. "I was running from shame, from the belief that I was worthless because I couldn't have children, and then you found me. You saved me, and somehow I ended up having everything I thought was impossible." "We saved each other," Jed corrected, pulling her close. "You saved me from isolation and guilt. I gave you shelter from the storm, but the rest, the love, the family, the life we've built, we created that together. You were never barren, Eliza. You were just waiting for the right person to show you your own worth." Their story became legend in that part of Montana. The tale of the woman who ran into a blizzard to escape shame and found love instead. The mountain man who saved her and discovered his own redemption, and the miracle baby that proved doctors and town gossips could be spectacularly wrong. It was a story about how worth is never determined by what cruel people say, how love can heal the deepest wounds, and how sometimes the people who are deemed broken are actually the strongest of all. They just needed someone to see them truly, to love them wholly, and to give them the space to discover their own power. And Eliza, who had once believed she was too fat, too worthless, too broken to deserve love or family, became living proof that every person carries within them the capacity for transformation, that shame is a lie told by people who don't know better, and that the right love, genuine, unconditional, respectful love, can heal wounds that seemed permanent and create possibilities that seemed impossible.